I'll start off by just introducing myself. I'm Jamie Davis. I'm a farmer from Tensas Parish. Proud husband, a father, a brother, granddad, and even a great-granddad. I grow cotton, corn, and soybeans on 3,200 acres. I feel like Louisiana is primed for just a common, everyday citizen to lead in the Senate, because the candidates that we've been sending to Washington has lost touch with everyday people like us. We all have our own struggles, whether or not it's high insurance, whether or not it's affordability, whether or not it comes down to your health care. But in order for us to have candidates that we send to Washington and they vote against the state's own interests, we all know that Louisiana consists of citizens that are more than 50% on some source of dependency for health care, whether it's the ACA or Medicaid or Medicare. And for our elected officials to vote against the citizens of the state, to decrease the amount of spending that's being spent on health care, that causes the state to eventually get to a place where we're closing hospitals. How would that affect you if hospitals start to close in your area? I've traveled this state. I've spoke to people up and down the state, from Shreveport to Lafayette to Baton Rouge to New Orleans to in the West Bank of New Orleans. I've been traveling all up and down the state. And one thing that I do realize is everybody is struggling. You know, I didn't know until I got out in the road that we got brand new schools in the city of New Orleans that could possibly be closing because of cuts with the Department of Education. That's all because of the wrong leadership that we're sending. We can't keep sending what I would call career politicians that are basically seasoned people that their lives is basically set. When you look at the slate of candidates that we're running against, their lives are already set. Most of them don't have to work another day in their lives. We all have to get up and go to work. How many of us can say that we don't have to go to work, that our lives are set? I'm waiting. Somebody please pick your hand up. So why are we sending people to represent us that don't have that same goals in life that we have? Also, I've served public office. I was elected to serve as the Vice President of Tensas Parish Police Jury. So I've heard that a lot on the road. Hey man, you've never served. And I guess some people don't take the time to go and look to see that I've actually been elected before. And I've served. Also, I sit on countless boards ranging from Head Start to USDA, where I serve on a farm board. I'm also on some boards with Farm Bureau, and I'm also a member of the Harvest Baptist Church, where we have a 501c3 that does the after-school program. After the cuts, we had to suspend the after-school program, but I was the president of that. So, you know, I've done my time in service, and I just wanted to more or less introduce myself to y'all. And I don't know, are we having questions now, or is it more or less an introduction? So if anybody has some questions that they would like to ask, I'm willing to answer them to the best of my ability.
Why don't you tell everybody, for those of us who were not smart in geography like me, where Tensas Parish is?
Okay, so I'll tell you where Tensas Parish is. Tensas Parish is kind of in the northeast corner of Louisiana. We're situated on the Mississippi River. It's a little, I'll give you some big cities, that's not really big, but they're bigger than where I'm from. Have you ever heard of Vicksburg, Mississippi, or Natchez, Mississippi? Tensas Parish is between both of them, but in Louisiana. So to the south of me is Natchez, and to the north of me is Vicksburg. And I sat on the river in between them. We're a river parish. It's mainly agriculture. You know, I grew up around mustard greens and cornbread and sweet potatoes and growing that stuff and eating it, you know, fresh out the field. Rabbit hunting and deer hunting, that's where I come from. I'm just an old country boy that's concerned, and I want to see better for our state because, like I said, I'm a farmer, and I can't just pick my farm up and move to somewhere else. And I've seen that same identical pattern all over the state. People work hard to leave a legacy for them and their families. And in rural communities and places where the trend is going down, you have to get out and try to do it for yourself, because if the person that you're sending ain't doing it, you got to get out and fight for yourself. And that's why I drove 3 hours to meet y'all, because I'm going to fight for you, and of course I'm going to fight for me. Thank you for your time. Is there any questions? All right.
What is your, how do you feel about gun control?
So, gun control.
Hold on 1 second.
What's your stand on gun control?
Gun control is one thing that definitely needs touching, because, of course, I'm a gun owner myself, a few of them, but I don't think that anybody should be able to just do anything at any time. I think there needs to be some reform done, and we definitely need reform. Do I have the magic answer for what that reform needs to be? I don't. But I'm willing to work at it with anybody that has ideas on what that reform needs to be. So being that I'm a gun owner definitely means that I don't want everybody's guns taken, because I love to hunt and shoot my guns just like everybody else. But I do believe there needs to be controls, and most definitely controls in a better way than it is right now.
Do you think all guns should be registered?
Well, I think all new guns sold should be registered, because I'll give you an example. For any of you that have ancestors, like your grandfather may have left you a gun. Well, he bought it before they had to have registrations. So now you get caught with a gun that's not registered and your grandfather left it to you. How do you handle a situation like that? So I think that any new guns moving forward should be registered, because that's something that you can control. Because a new gun being sold should be registered. That way people know where that gun and who it was sold to. But now, like I said, that's kind of a slippery slope, because in that same breath that you just said, my father passed away in 2021. And I've got 3 of his guns. My son got a couple of them, and my sister got a pistol, and I think my brother. So all of those guns, if they were doing the registration period, would have my father's name on it. So does that mean that we need to go back and re-register all of those guns? See, that's kind of where I kind of get lost on that. But I think that if you sell a brand new gun, it should be registered.
The reason I ask is because of the weekend, it's the only city, the only state in the nation where you had 3 cities in the top 25 about gun violence: Shreveport, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and the top 25 in the nation. California has strict gun laws, and they have less crime during the weekend, and they populate 10 times out of the weekend.
I do understand, and I'm not defending that, but the little bit that I know about California, I don't think they hunt and fish like we do. And I'm not saying that I'm right. I'm just looking for what I can see. How many states do we have in the nation that pride themselves on being the sportsman paradise? So how can you pride yourself on being a sportsman paradise when you're not hunting and fishing? So, but that's not an excuse for the crime. I just want to stay on the gun part of it. So when you're in a place that the state prides itself on hunting and fishing, that's kind of where a lot of the guns kind of, the laws were a little loose in Louisiana about buying guns because of the way we live.
Got more guns in Texas.
I understand. I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm just, but here it is. How do we control guns that are already out? You can't. Unless, you're going to take everybody's, and then that's sure enough a fight.
Texas, they use guns for hunting animals in the weekend, they use guns for hunting people.
I can't dispute that, because the crime rate is what the crime rate is. I can't dispute that one, sir. There's no way I can dispute that one. Maybe the sheriff of Orleans Parish maybe could dispute that one. And also, I think we may be getting into an area where that's a state law. When it comes to running for the United States Senate, it's a federal law. And if we handle guns, the whole nation gonna handle guns. Yeah.
Hi. I'd like to know what you plan to do to combat and work with the youth as far as mental health. We are lacking that. I find in the state as a whole, we are lacking mental health facilities.
Yes.
How would you encourage the younger generation to become mental health workers, counselors? Work with the school district more. The teachers are already having a little training to work that's not particularly, I wouldn't say it's their job, but to love the children and they deal with those problems. What do you plan to do as far as statewide as a whole?
So when it comes to mental health falls right under health care. And when you take away the subsidies that people had to help lower the cost of their health insurance, and you put that full burden back on the citizens, some people are not going to re-up on their insurance. I can tell you about my subsidy. My subsidy, when it ended, I went from paying like around $650 to $1,500. So for people that depended on the subsidies to help ease the pain of paying their health care bills, because that's truly where mental health falls. It falls under health care no different than if you break a leg and you need to go to the doctor. Mental health is a sickness just like somebody catching the flu. And that care needs, it's as important as any other care. And for me to address it would be to tell you that if a bill is put on the floor, if we're elected to the United States Senate, I will definitely be voting to try to bring back the subsidies. Is the ACA perfect? No, ma'am, it's not. I would love to see us have a single payer system. That way you don't have all of that waste, fraud, and, but it all comes back down to having some type of health care that a person can depend on. Just for people that can't afford it. That's where I am on that. The most important thing is mental health is no different than, having a flu or anything. And some people think it's different, but I don't see it as being different.
Yes, sir, it is different.
I did say I don't see it as being different.
We have to, I feel like when it comes with politicians, even though I see you as a regular guy, I'm a neighbor, but I'm as a politician, and you would like my vote, I need to feel comforted in the fact that you're going to work for my child's teacher,
Yes.
my child's principal, the
Yes.
pastor,
Yes.
everybody around when it comes to to mental health. We just lacking. It's not enough facilities here.
I agree, I totally
It's
agree.
not. Mental health also in the prison pipeline as well.
Yes, yes, I totally get it. But now, if it's an illness and it's a sickness, why is it not being taken care of in the health, the part of the health bill? Mental health, you see what I'm saying? Yes, I'm not saying that if you got the flu, something wrong with your head. I'm basically saying that it deserves to be in that category with all of the other medical issues. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi. My question is, how do you plan to combat the rise of homelessness in Louisiana?
Oh, I love that question. I love that one. And the reason why I love that question is because when I just can't sleep at night, because I'm one of those persons that I feel like if I don't do my best to present myself as the best, then I'm not doing the justice of seeking this office. So to combat homelessness, one of the things that I've come up with that kind of falls under my approach to affordability is an approach to where every individual in the United States shall receive an income of $1,000 to help themselves along the way. That's the way I feel like we combat affordability. And under that same umbrella, it should address homelessness. Because if a person is homeless and living under a bridge in New Orleans, where I see a lot of them at when I travel to the city, I'm not a guy that frequents New Orleans all of the time. But I spent a little time at the Mardi Gras, and I've been going back to campaign, and I see those people under the bridge, and it just breaks my heart. And so late night, one night, I was just doing some research, and I just kept digging and digging and digging, and I get this idea from Alaska. Alaska has a program that's similar to what I'm saying, where the people of Alaska get a small income from the state of Alaska every month. And so I go to doing research, and I asked the AI engine, because everybody else is using it, we must use it to help ourselves also. I get to digging into AI, it fits the mold. Actually, some other politicians have tried to do it, and it didn't work. But I think if it's presented right by the right candidate, which is a guy that's of the people, for the people, not a politician that's a career politician that comes off wrong, but a guy that truly showing that they care for the people that they're representing. You submit that bill, we could get what we need for it to pass and have what I call a citizen's dividend. Now, that's not what we're gonna call it, because I don't want a name to be there that scares people away from it. You have to present it in a way that everybody accepts it. But would you feel like if a homeless person had a card that every month got $1,000 on it, do you think that would help them relieve their homelessness? Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Interrupt. This is going to be our last question. We have a couple.
Okay.
But good job.
I just want to know how you feel about veterans and how to help veterans out. You know, as you know, there's been about 6,000 people laid off from the VA, caretakers, doctors, and all of those people. And now we're in a war. We're going to get some more veterans that are going to need help. So what's your take on that?
First off, I'm not a veteran, but I've got some veterans in my family. I have an uncle that's a Marine. I got really good friends that were in the military. And so I will be taking the lead from them. And what they're saying is no different, sir, than more or less the same support that you would give the homeless. That would also turn and would help the veterans also. And also what it does is it triggers the economy to help local businesses to where they can be able to put people back to work. Because when you put money back into the economy locally, most of the time people spend that money locally. They don't just put it in their pockets. How can somebody that needs a boost sit on it? You're going to spend it right at home. No different than the veterans would. The military needs better leadership than somebody that basically served on Fox News and had a few moments that they served their country, because he did serve his country, but we all know that he cut his teeth on Fox News, and he don't know the way of what real veterans going through, because he's making his money on TV and in the Trump administration. So when we change our situation, I will be working with whomever it is that's leading the military. And I would love for you to be able to lend me your ear on, hey, this is what I see, because when it comes to knowing everything, I'm not going to even lie. I don't know everything. Now, you can ask me a foreign question, I'll keep you the answer on that. But knowing everything about the military, and I've never served, I'm not going to fake it to make it. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know it. I don't know the answer to that, but I promise you, if you call me in a month, I'll have you a better answer.